Start of episode 6, where we take it to this point here. So this is how I plan to do my wiper motor for the truck. This is the motor out of the car. This is the arm and that came off that motor. This is the one out of the truck. This is what's just the bracket. I've removed everything off the truck. So I should be able to just mount this onto there and then cut these arms in half. Take the back of this arm and then weld it onto the front of this arm, and then once that's done, then I just need to set the distance down. It was about 900 thousandths, just over 7/8 of an inch from the face of this up to where the bushing sets, top of that bushing for the arm. So set that and just make sure I have enough of a jog in this arm that it will clear the nut and the stud. It's a little taller. The truck had a bolt that went in there, so it was a little lower, so I just need to make sure that as it goes around that the arm will clear. And then I should be able to just route the wire from the harness back in to the inside of the car, because it'll be in the under the hood, the harness, and plug it in. Should be good to go. Here's a little trick. If you've got something you want to turn down, you don't have a lathe, like this washer, I just want a little bit smaller. You can put it on a bolt with a nut and then just run it the opposite direction so it'll tighten if it tries to spin, and then hit it with your grinder. I just needed to take just a little bit off that, and I kind of still wanted it round, so this is just a quick little tip. I don't see that one used a lot. So there it is, up under the dash. I don't have the arms clipped on, but I've got them on there. I kind of pointed the motor up. The plug's right here. I've got to bring that from the outside wiring harness, so I didn't figure that would really matter. Pointed it up away from the dash of the motor so it clears this defrost outlet. And then on my piece where I filled in the firewall, I went right to the firewall and kind of came down in about the same angle, so I just had to bend the bracket a little, and then I went and got the nut out of the original firewall that was originally holding that bracket, the welding nut. It was staked in. I just cut it out, welded it in, located it off the bracket, and welded it in. If you watch the Boss Garage on YouTube, he's a big proponent of always hanging on to all your pieces from your donor vehicles until you finish the project. And that was a good tip there, because I still happen to have the firewall off the truck sitting there. I happen to have room for it. I know some people, they don't have a spot to keep it, but that's kind of a good tip, because you never know when you're going to want to go grab something. I'll pull that off there and show you the arm really quick. So I wound up with a 3/4 inch spacer here. I bought these at the local farm supply. They had them in stock, a 1/4 inch ID. I think it's a 5/8 OD steel spacer. And then I had some different M6 nuts. Well, I did have to take and tap these holes. They use a self-tapper screw, and a regular screw was a little snug, so I had to take an M6 tap and chase the holes out a little bit. And then on the arm, I used the Vic arm, and I just removed the stud that was in it, and I cut the truck arm off about right there, and I just welded it on top here. It's a little bit taller. I think the distance was 900 thousandths from that shoulder down to the top of the bracket. I'm a little taller, but my firewall kicks in a little bit more, so it moved it away. So I went with that to try and make up for that, keep the arms in line, and when I was up in there, it looked pretty good. And then I think the center distance was like 1 9/16 from the center of the shaft to the center of this. And I'm right in there somewhere, so hopefully it's close enough. I'll be for finding out when I turn them on for the first time. And then I threw some paint on it just because nobody's going to see it, so why not throw some paint on it. So that's what I got. Hopefully it works out. Looks like it will. So I talked about moving this. This is where the bearing for the steering shaft bolts on. And I did move it. I moved it up and I tilted it more at the column because my cab sits up a little higher. I probably didn't need to make it as straight as I did, but and I think I only tacked it in there about 5 times and had to take it back out because I kept messing up with the location. But I finally got it so the gas pedal goes in, the brake goes in, it's not way of the gas pedal and lines up with the steering column. I do have to assemble, I have to put that, there's a plastic piece that goes on, so I gotta put that on first, and then the brake pedal, and then I can put the bearing on. But as long as I remember to do that, it should be okay. And the welds aren't the greatest, but it'll look better when something's covering it. And then for the light switch, I did this. I'm half expecting a little bit of hate. Again, sorry about the lighting. I don't have it welded in yet, but just using the Vic switch. I cut this hole in the dash, obviously. And then I made this piece out of steel, and it's contoured to the dash, and then it's got some spots to catch the clips. There's 4 spots, and there's some stops, and the clip up there, and then I'm hoping that I can weld that in and that switch will still go down in there. I haven't altered the switch at all, but that's kind of, if I get it welded in there and it's not quite square, that's kind of my backup plan, is to shave a little off the switch, but I'm trying to not have to do that. So weld this in and see how that works. So I got the dash in, but I'm gonna move it over about a 1/2 inch. It's not centered. It shouldn't be too hard to do. Starting to try and figure out what I want to do with the column. Get the column in there, as you can see. I don't know. It's obviously not going to be ideal, but should function well. There's the light switch. I don't have it shoved all the way back so the clips aren't catching, just to make it easier to take it back out. But it goes back about another 1/4 inch. Paint the down. I'm not gonna bond over finish anymore. You can still see some of the welds, but that's okay. Fuse box is mounted down there. That should be good. Parking brake, the spot's all in there, but I don't have it in there. I had it in there a minute ago and it clears the fuse box, so that's where I'm at. So I opened up these holes in the cowl so I could get in there and paint and seam seal my cold air in as best I could. I did it on the other side too, so I could rust proof that. Those are the covers that will go on there. So I've been seam sealing and painting. This paint back here is just to give the peel and seal something to stick to and make it a little bit nicer for working up in there. I do plan to repaint the whole inside of this. I'll just tape off the back of the dash. This will allow me to put my steering column back in and the heater controls and brake pedal and all that kind of stuff. And it's October, it's late October in Michigan, and it's just barely warm enough to paint. So I've got everything hanging in here, and then I leave my big light on to try and put a little bit more heat to get the stuff to dry. So I'm kind of up against the clock on get some of this stuff painted, and once it gets too cold to paint, then I'll just be doing fab work till it warms up again. So one thing I want to mention down here, between this tubing and the old rocker on this and the Crown Vic, there's a 1/2 to 1/4 inch wide area, and if you go lower than I did on this Crown Vic side, that's going to be even taller. And I'm not going to slide in there and try to get a picture because it's so dark you won't really see anything, but I just took seam sealer and shoved it up in there with a putty knife and tried to get in there the best I could to protect it. So hopefully that's good enough, and then I put paint over it too. So that's what I did there. So I'm going to call this the end of the cab mounting. So end of cab mounting part 3. I've got all the blower motor back in and the AC housing, heater core. I made that little bracket for the EGR. I'm going to keep that for now. Got some paint on here. I might come back and put bed liner on this later. I'm not sure. So I've got some paint on there. Try and keep it from rusting. I got some different seats in there now. I picked up these seats that I have a 2013 Chevy. So don't hate me for mixing it up. They're not perfect. There's a little hole in the driver's seat there. But they seem to give me enough room in the cab. I've got a door thrown on right now. I don't have all the gaps set yet. Just kind of got it. I'm gonna put them on there for now so I can use those for the body lines, because the next thing I'd like to do is start putting the front clip on and get that figured out. And then also it'll be nice to have the doors on there when I'm setting the box, getting those body lines set. And then, like I mentioned, I've got all my AC stuff there. I got some peel and seal in there. I put a radio antenna in there where I could get in there and work. That bracket's for the lighting module. There's the wiper motor. I got, the lighting would be better out here. I guess it's not. But I've got my gas pedal in. I got my steering all in. Parking brakes mounted. Got my column all in. I've got my shifter cable run. Parking brake cable run. So I'm kind of at a good point to take a break on working on the cab stuff and get the front clip mounted up and get the box mounted. Like I said, I do plan to paint the rest of this. I just threw this paint on here on the inside there for something to peel and seal to stick to, and there was a bunch of new metal up in there. This does flip up with the seat there, so that'll be nice in a pinch when you have to all 3 people. So that's about it where I'm at, which you can see with the horrible lighting. On these pieces beside the column here, I think they're big enough to attach some beauty panels to, but they might be a little big, so I might need to cut them down. But I just want to get them welded in there so that I wouldn't have to come back and weld anymore next to the column. But before somebody asks why those hideous plates are there, but my plan is I want to build something in front of this. I said I wasn't going to when I started in my mind, but I think it's the best route to go. So I plan to build this and work up to that, and then try to cover up that steering column and then go up to the dash. I kind of got a rough idea what I want to do, but I want to build those pieces up later, and that'll probably be after I have the seats mounted and know where everything is. Well, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Things will probably slow down a little bit. It's starting to get pretty cold here, and I don't have heat, but I'll be out here bundled up. And hopefully, still got my goal to be on the road with this. Next summer is my goal. So again, thanks for watching. Scrap to Art Metalworks is the channel. I also have a Facebook page for my art. I don't really put much of my truck stuff on there, but my metal art's on there. Scrap to Art Metalworks on Facebook. Have a great day.